Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing in our top story. With the territory facing economic issues at the beginning of 2017, Governor Kenneth Mapp, as we reported on Friday, is encouraging the Virgin Islands legislature to engage the executive branch's 5-year economic plan. With sin taxes, among others, being introduced, the 32nd legislature will have the opportunity to address these issues while in the first 100 days of being sworn into office. Here's more.
With the territory facing additional economic challenges in 2017, Governor Kenneth Mapp is imploring the Virgin Islands legislature to address the sin tax as well as his economic recovery plan for the next 5 years.
A rejection of the identification of new and immediate revenues to the territory, particularly to satisfy the financial markets that we are moving out of structural deficits, would be a decision equal to saying that we will be cutting 11 to 14% of the budget for the government of the Virgin Islands to be sustained.
Senator Samuel Sanis of the 32nd Legislature shared with TV2 News his insights on the governor's economic plan.
What was missing, though, in the conversation was actual economic development when it comes to creating jobs, creating new forms of revenues. And this is something that we have mentioned before, we discussed before. As you know, we have several projects here, and especially here on Island of St. Croix, that once started will increase employment, will increase revenues coming in. These are the type of projects that can generate revenues. Another thing that can be done here in the Virgin Islands is streamline the permit process. A lot of new businesses, a lot of individuals have complained that to get the permits, to get the documents needed to start a new business, is sometimes very slow. Sometimes it takes a while.
Richard Dorsey, News 2.
As funding from bonds and other instruments become less available, the Virgin Islands leadership must determine what course of corrections is needed to keep the Virgin Islands operating and thriving. Now, Governor Mapp, in that press conference, appointed Felicia Blyden as Commissioner of Human Services as a designee. Ms. Blyden has been with the Department of Human Services for 26 years, with her latest position being that of Administrator for Disabilities and Rehabilitation Services. Ms. Blyden holds a Bachelor of Arts, Social Work, University of the Virgin Islands, and Master of Arts, Vocational Rehabilitation Counseling, University of Arkansas at Little Rock, Arkansas. Here's more.
I want to thank publicly Dr. Anita Roberts for her stewardship at the Department of Human Services. As you know, under Virgin Islands law, you could only serve as a commissioner on a temporary basis, I believe 180 days. Dr. Roberts served as the head, the Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget, and served as the head of the Federal Grants Management Unit. We discussed last year Dr. Roberts' return to her position at OMB, and again I want to thank her tremendously for her help in holding on the federal programs and the work at the Department of Human Services. And after meeting with Ms. Blyden and having a robust and serious discussion on the issues confronting the Department of Human Services, I'm very pleased that Ms. Blyden has agreed to accept what would be a very difficult and challenging job in the short term.
Also, Governor Mapp has submitted to the legislature his proposal to amend the Virgin Islands Horse Racing Industry Assistance Act of 2010. In his letter of transmittal to Senate President Myron Jackson, the governor says that the 31st legislature made certain final amendments to the act by striking key provisions in 3 areas. While senators voted to retain 2 district horse racing commissions, Governor Mapp again proposes a single regulatory body with 9 members appointed by the governor. His proposal also includes an increase in the stipend for each commission member to $500 for each race. Governor Mapp also wants the legislature to restore to the act the provision requiring compliance with federal and local anti-doping rules. Well, Senator Jeanette Mulayam said that the non-sustainable public policy practice of irresponsible spending and wastefulness cannot continue. She said her first act as member of the 32nd legislature is to uphold the separation of powers doctrine, and she unconditionally disagrees with the tax and spend mentality that leads to wanton disregard, she said, of public finances, sound economic policy, and efficient government services. Mulayam said last year she stated that the fiscal year 2017 budget submitted by the executive branch was not based on true figures, and they were pie-in-the-sky projections. She said few of her colleagues took her to task. They went on to approve more borrowing bills, which she voted against consistently. She said she is prepared to work with any senator and the governor for a real way forward. The Committee on Education, Youth, and Recreation, they're holding a committee meeting hearing on Thursday, February 2nd in the Earl B. Otley Legislative Chambers on St. Thomas. The committee will take testimony from education officials, union officials, and others regarding the state of education and of school facilities in the territory. Also this Thursday, Governor Mapp said he will meet with the legislature to discuss bond transactions with investors from New York, as well as the VI financial team. Count on two to keep you updated. Virgin Islands Department of Education, St. Croix Office of the Insular Superintendent, they're informing the public that the district's human resources, the HR and payroll offices have scheduled closures during this week, January 16th to the 20th, to relocate to a new office building at number 8D Estate Cottage. The St. Croix HR office provided limited service today and will do so again on Wednesday, January 18th, opening at 8 a.m. and closing at 12 noon. Persons may contact the HR office at 340-773-1095, extension 7041 for assistance during those hours. Now, additionally, the HR office will be closed all day on Thursday, January 19th and Friday, January 20th. During that period, matters requiring immediate attention may be directed to the St. Thomas St. John Human Resources Office by calling 340-774-0100. The payroll office on St. Croix will also be closed from Tuesday, January 17th through Friday, January 20th. Both offices are scheduled to reopen at the new location on Monday, January 23rd. Well, the latest in the Kevin Rodriguez case for his 32nd legislature seat has been taken to the federal level. Those representing the plaintiffs in this case had filed a motion asking the federal courts to stay out of the local matter. While the decisions made by the Superior and Supreme Court of the VI, Rodriguez filed for the case to be moved to the U.S. District Court on Tuesday, January 10th. On Thursday, January 17th, Edward Barry, representing Brigitte Barry and Janelle Saru, filed a motion asking the case to be remanded back to the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. Barry states that because the injunction was issued under the Supreme Court of the Virgin Islands, a ruling by the federal court would run counter to the authority of the local Supreme Court, which federal courts can't do, said Barry. The 32nd legislature has yet to act upon the lawsuit against them by Rodriguez for his Senate seat. Count on News 2 to keep you updated. The territory's Republican leaders went to Capitol Hill today. Virgin Islands Republican Chairman John Canegata, National Committee woman and former territorial Senator Liliana Belardo de O'Neill, and National Committeeman Javon Williams will raise several issues in a meeting with the Republican majority on the House of Representatives Subcommittee on Indian, Insular and Alaskan Native Affairs. After their meeting in the House, the Republican leaders showed their support for Congressman Ryan Zinke at his confirmation hearing. Zinke, a Republican from Montana, is President-elect Donald Trump's designee for Secretary of the Department of Interior. As Secretary of Interior, Zinke would oversee the 5 U.S. territories. Canegata, Belardo de O'Neill, and Williams will also continue advising on the filling of presidential appointments in the Virgin Islands, including for U.S. Attorney, U.S. Marshal, and Judge of the Federal District Court. Turning to crime reports, police are looking for 47-year-old Cuthbert de Souza from St. Vincent. Here's more from the VIPD.
He's wanted for assault third DV. Mr. de Souza is wanted for assaulting his girlfriend with a crowbar, breaking her arm. He's a black male individual, about 5'11", 158 pounds, with black hair, brown eyes. He frequents the Williams Delight and Barron Spot area. If you come in contact with Mr. Cuthbert de Souza, you can call 911. You can call the Criminal Investigations Bureau, the DV unit, at 778-2211. You can call Crime Stoppers via at 1-800-222-TIPS or 911.
A candlelight vigil was held near the Bavoni Management main office over the weekend and funeral services today. Many turned out to show their support and extended condolences for Tajin Thomas, you may remember, who was shot. Police said on Sunday, January 1st at roughly 12:12 a.m. A citizen called the 911 emergency call center and reported shots fired in the area of Bavoni and a possible gunshot victim. Upon arrival, the homicide task force, the victim was already transported to the Roy Schneider Hospital by a concerned citizen. Tajin Thomas succumbed to his injuries. He sustained a single gunshot wound to his head. The case is still presently under investigation. Firefighters say 8 people were wounded in a shooting at a MLK Day celebration in Miami. Witnesses say panic broke out after shots rang out Monday afternoon at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Park. According to Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, 3 juveniles and 3 adults were shot. 2 other juveniles were grazed by bullets. Police are questioning 2 people and they recovered 2 weapons. As Washington gets ready for the inauguration of Donald Trump, President Obama and his family are getting ready to move on from their 8 years in the White House. Kristen Holmes has this report from Washington on how the current president is getting ready for the next.
As the world is getting ready for Donald Trump to officially begin his presidency Friday, President Obama is wrapping up his tenure and preparing to move on. Today, making a surprise visit to the final White House daily briefing to thank his press secretary.
Of the folks that I've had the great joy and pleasure of working with over the last 10 years on this incredible journey, this guy ranks as high as just about anybody I've worked with.
A moving truck spotted in front of the Obama's soon-to-be Washington home. The president telling CBS that his family is welcoming their new life outside the White House.
The girls, they are now of an age in which the constraints of Secret Service and bubbles and all that stuff has gotten pretty old. Michelle never fully took to the scrutiny. I mean, she's thrived as a first lady, but it's not her preference.
Following Trump's inauguration, the first family will escape the chilly D.C. temperatures, taking the presidential aircraft, no longer Air Force One, to Palm Springs, California, a spot he frequented for golf trips during his presidency.
I'm not setting my alarm. That I'm certain of.
President Obama said he's looking forward to spending time with his wife as they have a lot of catching up to do. He will deliver his last press conference Wednesday. In Washington, I'm Kristen Holmes.
Meanwhile, keeping our eye on the economy, General Motors says it plans to invest at least $1 billion in U.S. factories. The move could create or retain at least 1,000 jobs in the U.S., according to a source familiar with the plan. A formal announcement is expected later Tuesday. The source says the investment has been in the works for a while and is not part of a deal made with President-elect Donald Trump. Trump has threatened to impose a 35% tax on cars imported to America from Mexico. At his news conference last week, he predicted GM would make bigger U.S. investments. GM recently announced layoffs at 3 U.S. plants, getting rid of 3,300 jobs because of poor sales. Let's take a look at the New York Stock Exchange with the Stock Market Watch. As we can see, everything down. The Dow down 58, NASDAQ 35, S&P 500 also down 6. Coming up on News 2, highlights from Martin Luther King events. How the territory recognized Dr. Martin Luther King. Highlights there from the Martin Luther King parade held on Monday. Tune in later on in the show. We'll have the highlights. Meanwhile, Senator Kurt Violet is calling on Public Works Commissioner Gustav James to contact the contractor of the Company Street project in Christiansted and demand that the project be done correctly. Senator Violet said the project doesn't look finished, The roads in Christiansted have patches and certain areas are uneven. Manholes and electrical boxes are not leveled with the rest of the road and are like mini potholes, which poses a danger to motorists. Senator Violet said the government of the Virgin Islands paid the contractor to mill and pave the road, and there is no excuse for the poor work that has been done. He said, "We have paid for quality work, and that is what we demand." Meanwhile, here on St. Thomas, many complaints on this road that includes numerous potholes starting near the racetrack in Bavoni. Many nearby residents are asking, when will this be repaired? Adding that motorists sometimes even swing into the next lane to avoid the pothole in their lane, or even driving onto the sidewalk to avoid them. Be sure to count on 2 to keep you updated on the repair of the road. Here's an update on the pedestrian shelter, the bus stop at the top of Benner Hill, St. Thomas, near the traffic light adjacent to the National Guard Armory. You may remember it was first a couple of benches that neighbors built for the children. It was run over by a vehicle in Rotary East, Kappa, Smith Bay Association. They contacted the My Brothers Workshop, who rebuilt the benches over a year and a half ago. The organization did a fundraiser in the neighborhood. Many have partnered for this, including the East End Rotary, Kappa, Public Works, Pro Solar, Colomax. It is now in the final stages of painting and even roofing. They're asking residents to come out and join them this Saturday at 9 a.m. and thanking those who came out to assist so far, blew horns in support, and even brought fruit and drinks. Well, in case you were wondering why the road closure and parade-like atmosphere in downtown St. Thomas on Main Street, tourism officials say it was due to a promotional activity, film production. They said CW Production, in partnership with a cruise line, had the scenes staged for a vacation creation scene. The Department of Tourism's film office sent out an earlier alert indicating that there was a road closure, parking restriction in place on Main Street from Cardao to Raditz today from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. The road was closed to traffic and no parking allowed in certain areas from as early as 6 a.m. While some merchants say they are happy for the production as it is great publicity for the VI, there were some other concerns. Here's more.
Apparently there was a gentleman who was part of security, and he said they were filming a commercial, which is great. We want to promote the VI. It's a great thing. And since then, they have changed the tape from crime scene investigation, do not cross, to caution, which is so much better, not only because the customers kind of wonder what's going on, and something like that with 2 ships in town, not the best atmosphere, you know, to have 2 blocks of Main Street taped up with the signs saying crime scene investigation. But that obviously has been fixed with caution, and it was much appreciated. But I think also at this point, you know, it's more like if either, I know this is being sponsored by tourism, so either someone from tourism emails the chamber, emails me, or emails somebody on the Main Street so the word can get out, instead of people getting all concerned and hot and heavy about, oh my God, what's going on, what happened, and just communication, you know.
And that production was just for one day today. Now, as we reported on Friday, the Hebrew congregation of St. Thomas, they honored Virgin Islands students for following in the footsteps of Dr. Martin Luther King. The congregation has been doing so annually during the special Shabbat Awards service. The event drew top government and community leaders from all over the island. The students wrote essays embodying King's values and presented them. Senator Jean Ford also congratulated the students. The students are 8 recipients: Makita Christiana Wade of Seventh-day Adventist School, Shaquille Persad of All Saints Cathedral, Joshua Farrell of Antilles School, Mary Alice Prosper of CAHS, Larisma Maduro of Gift Hill, Abigail Joseph of Banayudorken, Liliana Francis of St. Peter and Paul, Leah Trotman, VI Montessori School, and Peter Gruber International Academy. Congratulations to all the students. The Allah F. Mullah Elementary School Bambula dancers and drummers, they commemorated MLK Day by staging the school's 2nd annual Walk for Freedom. That walk kicked off at 7:30 a.m. in the school's parking lot with approximately 75 students, parents, and Muller staff participating. Lenice Mercer, who is a Muller Reading Intervention Specialist and St. Thomas St. John District 2016 Teacher of the Year finalist, heads up the Muller Bambula Dancers and Drummers Club. She led the walk by blowing a conch shell on the 45-minute trek to Limburg Bay Beach, where it ended. A moment of silence was held in remembrance of Dr. King, and students were treated to a healthy breakfast of fruits, local bush tea, and sandwiches. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was remembered with a peace march on Monday. All schools and civic organizations were invited. It was being presented by the distinguished gentleman of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, Theta Epsilon Lambda chapter. A short program was held in Emancipation Gardens following that march. Here's more.
And as he stated in his own words, his concepts of struggle had 4 aspects, and they're useful to us in the Virgin Islands as we approach any nonviolent struggle for justice. They are: 1, collection of the facts to determine whether injustices exist; 2, negotiation; 3, self-purification; and 4, direct action. Friends, these 4 concepts are eternal concepts. Our ancestors used aspects of each of them. Although at times our ancestors were not necessarily nonviolent, particularly under the Danish rule and during the struggle against slavery and servitude. However, they stood up for justice. In the past 100 years, every generation of Virgin Islanders stood up to the challenges of the day.
Every year, Alpha Phi Alpha seeks to honor Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on his birthday. This means a lot to us. What does this mean to the community? It shows that we still reverence Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy. We want to push forward a legacy of nonviolence, and we want the community to know that not only was he fighter for civil rights, and also he was a Alpha Phi Alpha member, but also he was a man of God, and he wanted to make the world a better place. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., it mattered that you live, and the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha and the Virgin Islands community honor you, and you're glad that you are alive.
1906! Job well done there. Now, McDonald's, they partnered for the 3rd consecutive year with the St. Thomas St. John Interscholastic Athletic Association and the USVI Department of Education, participating as the title sponsor of the 24th annual IAA McDonald's Martin Luther King Jr. Varsity Basketball Invitational Tournament. McDonald's, together with the USVI Department of Education, they recognized 2 participating student athletes with the highest academic scores. This tournament hosted local high school teams from Charlotte Amalie, Ivana Udorken, VI Montessori, Antilles, Gift Hill Schools, Central High Complex, Educational Complex. Visiting teams were Elmore Stout High School, Bragado Flax Educational Center, and VI School of Technical Studies from the British Virgin Islands. Here's more.
I mean, I feel good, but it ain't about me. It's about how my players feel, you know. They deserve this win. We went out to Puerto Rico, and it wasn't really what we thought it was going to be. We went out there, and our expectations for ourselves was too high, and we didn't meet it. So I think this tournament, this tournament was redemption for my boys, you know. They got a hunger that they've been missing. You know, when you're a wolf, you got to eat. You know, we're not sheep. We wolves, and we come to eat, and that's what we're going to do.
What do you think this win going to do for the rest of your season?
Well, it can do one or two things, you know what I'm saying? It can go to their head, and then they don't know how to handle success, or they can learn how to handle success and be the best that they can ever be in their lives at this moment in their stage.
Most of the guys that's on our team are JV guys from last year. We only have 2 remaining seniors. That's the big guy and the point guard. And realistically, coming to this tournament, we didn't know what to expect. When you have all freshmen and only 2 seniors, plus Idoriken was already seasoned as the champion of last year. Central are loaded even though they didn't make the tournament. And Charlotte Amalie, we're really the 4th major high school looking in. So the fact that we got to the championship game, it was amazing. As for the game, it was well fought, well played. A couple bounces didn't go here and there, but my guys fought.
And congrats to the Ivana Udoriken High School, of course, who came out on top, and all the teams as well. Job well done. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.
Well, the good news for those of us on the Virgin Islands, after tonight's spotty showers, we're really going to be heading towards dry weather. We take a look at our current satellite. Not too much going on across the board, at least from the wider view. You can see quite a bit of stuff going on out over the Atlantic, but not too much that's going to be affecting us here. We take a look at our current radar. We can see just some of those spottier showers held off with a cold front off towards our north, and that's why we're allowing for a spotty shower throughout tonight as that front really begins to pull down off towards the south and the east. Overall, they should be brief, not extremely heavy, and we're not looking at thunderstorms either. Now, this is what we look at as far as our water vapor. This is what shows us how dry the air actually is. So anything in yellow, very dry, even that red out towards parts of Hispaniola. So much of the Caribbean going to be staying quite dry throughout over the next extended period that we're going to look at. So throughout tonight, we're going to be mainly clear. We could have just a brief bout of those showers as that front passes off towards our south. It's very weak though, so not too much going on. And for tomorrow, we'll see mostly sunny skies. It's going to be a nice few days for us as we look ahead out towards St. Thomas as well. And that also drops down into St. Croix. We do have some lighter winds out over the water out of the northeast, 10 to 15 knots. We do have those waves 4 to 6 feet. That's where our small craft use caution comes from. As we head throughout the rest of this week, this small craft advisory should begin to diminish as those waves do as well. Now on the Caribbean side of things, winds slightly higher. We are out of the northeast, 15 to 20 knots. Here's a look at our extended forecast, and you can see Wednesday through really Friday, we're going to be mostly sunny, very nice weather for us here. Temperatures in the low 80s for our highs, low 70s for our lows. And then as we head towards the weekend, we're just going to see a brief uptick in moisture, and that means that we could see a couple more of those showers around for our Saturday and then also into our Sunday morning as well. Back to you, Sandy.
Thanks for that. Our News 2 weather pictures by Denisha Lawrence of Ricardo Richards Elementary School. Denisha says it's always sunny in the Virgin Islands, and that is what we can expect. Small craft advisory is still in effect. Denisha, thank you for that. Send us your News 2 weather picture to the address on the screen to be featured right here on News 2. That is all for now. We'd like to thank you for joining us for all the latest. I'm Sandra Guman Singh. We'll leave you with music from the MLK Parade, the CAHS Marching Band. We'll see you next time.